I contacted you.
All
Okay,
right, very nice.
you are now live on the website.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Hi everyone, good evening. Just to say on tonight's show, I'm very lucky and honoured to have John Lawrence, Jeremy Poole and Stefan from Sweden. So we're very lucky tonight to have this gentleman on, and Anna, who has joined us. Can I just start with you, Stefan? John Lawrence and Jeremy are going to also ask some questions during the course of the evening. You run the YouTube channel Sanity for Sweden. Would you mind telling the UK public who are listening now how you got into starting this channel and your activism and you know what you talk about on your channel?
All right, very good. Nice to be here. Thank you. Well, it was actually two things that made me start to talk and do videos. And the first one was Brexit. When you were about to have this referendum in 2016, there were friends of mine, good friends, living around Sheffield. And they started discussing this Brexit thing. And I thought they were so angry and the language was so rough. And I started to become interested in what was this all about. And I realized I didn't know much about the EU. I thought I didn't like the EU, but I didn't know too much about it. So I studied and learned about the EU, and this inspired me to talk about it, actually. And then there was another thing, and that was actually Hillary Clinton.
Hillary, please, Hillary, get her name right. Hillary.
All right, it was Hillary. So when she, when I started to watch her and listen to her, I got really worried about it and about the future, basically. So those were the two things that made me start doing the videos, because I didn't like just sitting around grumbling about the situation. I wanted to speak, basically, and so that's what started it.
I know from going through quite a few of your videos and reading the headings on them and that that it's clearly obvious, and speaking to people in France and some in Canada, that we are all suffering the same thing. This is a global thing, what's going on. Everything that's happening on your country is happening in ours, is happening in France, is happening on, and so forth. My take on Brexit, I'm a leaver, and I know the other guests in the room are also leavers. My take on Brexit, it may be completely different to a lot of others, but that's to do with the research I've done. I personally, even though it looks like we've left, I personally don't feel we've been left. And one of the things you mentioned, Stefan, in one of the videos that I watched, is about the propaganda machine, and which is our enemy. You know, the mainstream media are our enemy because they're not telling the people in the countries, and all the countries, the reality and the real stuff that is going on. Jeremy, John, what do you, what's your take on Brexit and what Stefan is saying?
John?
Well, I sort of like agree with you, Tracy. We haven't left. And even if we think we have, there's still another battle on, because the Remainers will want to go back in somehow, and they're going to pull every trick under the book. But yeah, I believe we haven't left, even though we've been told officially.
Yeah, exactly. And Jeremy, do you have the
It's
same
a process,
take?
isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's a process. We haven't left yet, but I think we will now. I think we're on our way out. Can I ask Stefan a question?
Yes, go on, please.
Just a personal thing, because I can't believe that you would do a channel in English, because I speak Catalan poorly, and it would, for me to get a point of view across in another language, it's just hell on earth, because I sound so aggressive in Catalan and you sound so good in English. How the hell do you manage to speak so well in a foreign language? Do you do the same in Swedish?
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I started doing them in Swedish, And then I, did the subtitles. I started to translate what I said, but I'm lazy. I can't do it. So I started speaking in English. And if you look at my early videos, I speak very, very slowly. And I just picked it up, sort of, I think it was a necessity.
I don't think that's John's problem. Nobody can understand him anyway. He speaks
Yeah, going back on the Brexit thing, to the outside world, to the people out of the UK, who believe that we have left on the 31st. Just to let you know, Stefan, that the majority of the people in this country are still at a point where we don't feel we have left. But what I will say and I don't personally, I don't trust them at all. Yeah, a lot of this is to do with globalism and United Nations, and I know you get that because I know you've spoken on the United Nations as well. Now, I noticed that in Gibraltar, they pulled down the EU flag and they put up the Commonwealth flag. Now, if you look at the Commonwealth flag, it's the exact same colours of the EU, and yet it's got a global ball on it, which I think people need to look into more of what that is referencing. Yeah, and exactly the same colours of the EU. It's all about fooling the people and letting the people think that they are thinking with their own free will and everything else, and it's not. It's a lot deeper and it's a lot darker than that. So just letting you know, in Sweden and to you, Stefan, there are a lot of people in the UK that don't particularly feel that we are actually leaving until we get more evidence. But having said that, on the 31st of January this year, that everyone who went down to London and across the country that was celebrating, they did, no matter what happens, they deserve that moment. They fought for that moment. They shouldn't have had to fight, none of us, for 3 years to get the vote where the majority won. But they deserve that moment on the 31st, no matter what happens of January and having that celebration. I've just got a different opinion and I don't trust them at all.
I understand. Well, I think first of all, you should be so proud of yourself in the UK for actually pulling this through. It had to be, I realized this while I've been looking into it. It had to be the UK to do it because you're big enough, your economy is good, and you have this spirit in the UK that you don't, you stand up to the bullies. You have been doing it for a long time. So it had to be UK. And I think you did it against all odds, basically, because the whole establishment in your own country, your own politicians were against it, and media and everything. And still, you're actually, well, not really out, but you are out. Actually, you are. And it was so important for Sweden to see that this could be done. And now it's going to be very, very interesting to see the UK flourishing, because this is what I think will happen when you finally leave. And it was a very, very good job what you did. I was so happy when it happened. Actually, I was in Greece just a few weeks after you voted to leave, and I remember this very well. I came down to a beach, and there were just 2 people there, and they were English, and I congratulated them. And it was a very interesting moment because the guy voted to remain, and his wife voted to leave. And then he admitted to me that he really wanted the UK to leave, but still he voted to remain because he was worried about the future, the finances and stuff. So we had a good talk. That was a great thing what you did.
See, again, Stefan, my stance is slightly different again because we left. Well, we haven't physically left. It's a withdrawal agreement that takes us up to the 31st of the 12th 2020. It could change at any given moment. You know, which I'll keep my opinion on that to myself. We will keep standing up. You're right, we do that. I've been out on the streets for a long time for many other reasons, including Brexit. So I've seen the pantomime of what goes on, and it really is a pantomime. You know, they pay the Remainers, a lot of the Remainers in this country, outside Parliament, to stand there and shout F Brexit and all these things and carry the flags. They're actually paid to do it outside Parliament, you know, which to me is being treasonous against their own people, but that's just my opinion. John, Jeremy, do you want to jump in with anything?
I got plenty. Stefan, but Brexit.
Can I say something, Tracy?
Yes, please.
Yes, of course, Anna. Sorry, I've got
No,
you know what it is. I forgot because I've got my webcam and it's covering your name. Sorry.
No, but I also want to say to Stefan, I've involved now on Wake Up UK now for 2 years, and I've seen and heard from the people how proud they are of their country and how they are willing to fight for their country. And do you have that in Sweden, that people are willing to stand up for their country and fight for the country?
We don't have the same spirit here in Sweden, I'm sorry to say. I will have to say, though, that things have changed tremendously in Sweden for the last 2 years. Just 2 years ago, you couldn't even talk about immigration. You couldn't talk about Islam. If you said that you were anti-EU, you were basically a criminal. So things have really changed here in Sweden, and we have independent media growing quickly. So I'm quite happy and optimistic about Sweden as well. But it's like I said, it had to be the UK who went first and sort of made the road for the rest of us. It had to be the UK to do it. Nobody else could do it, you see. And it's fascinating to see the establishment in the UK, how hard they have been working on stopping this, and still they couldn't stop it. You see, it's fascinating actually, and I'm sure they will continue to try. Of course, they will do anything to stop this, but I don't think they will be able to, because you're sort of onto them now, aren't you?
Well, we're on to all their atrocities, that what they've been committing towards the people. You know, when you talk about the economy and finances and everything, in our country, just so you know, we have over 4 million children in poverty. We have people starving. We have veterans on our streets. We have veterans not getting help from charities who suffer from PTSD. And committing suicides. We have no proper mental health program, and people's children being found hanged in mental institutions, 25 in one unit. We have murders on the streets of our children, and they're covering it up. We have the abuse of children that is continuing, and no one in the establishment are helping. We have people's children being put into false foster care, and I do recognise the fact that there are times when children do need to be taken, from people's homes. So we're not saying that, but there are thousands and thousands of children. I met a really lovely mum yesterday in Wales. Her story, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. 4 children. She has 5 children. They took 4. Why would they leave 1? Anyway, so, you know, there's many, many children that are being put into false foster care and forced adopted, all for monetary gain. And they're using legal fraud against us and not what's lawful in this country. So there is a lot of things going on in this country that I'm presuming most of what I said is probably going on in yours, Stefan, as well, because I know it's global.
Absolutely. Our welfare system is crumbling right now. It's been in well, this is really a big topic here in Sweden. So, yeah, and they raise the taxes in order to pay for it all, but they can't make it. So it's a very delicate situation also here in Sweden. But I think it's worse in the UK actually.
And I don't believe for 1 minute that getting out of the EU is going to stop all this, because these crimes that are going on towards us are not from the EU. They're from our own government. Our own government are allowing it. And it's terrible crimes. I'm in a system where I see it each week, you know, when I go to a meeting or speak to a solicitor or speak to an MP. The new MP that has just taken over in my constituency, because, you know, we had another general election, I believe that was a second referendum personally, that he saw a letter that the previous MP sent for me regarding what happened in my case. Didn't end up finishing deal with it because he then moved to the Northern Ireland office, a general election coming. I have a new MP who knows full well who I am because I stood against him in the election, showed him this letter. I've got in touch with him to have a meeting and no response. This is what I mean. They just ignore you and they just think they can do what you do. And I do not believe all that comes from the EU.
All right, I see what you mean. Okay, you have lots of work to do.
Can I just touch up on one thing?
Yeah, please do, John.
Stefan, you said about the media and independent media. So are you only just getting independent media now? And how biased is your media, your regular media? Because I never see anything coming out of Sweden on any kind of media channel.
Right. Well, Swedish media, mainstream media is, I think there's a lot of similarities to the BBC actually. It's corrupt, it's left-wing, globalist, strong, yeah. And independent media has been strong for a long time in Sweden because we have nationalism growing here, and the only way for them to be able to reach people was through independent media. And a lot of people are pissed off, basically. And you know, it just takes a few of those people to start to speak up, and others will follow. So we have this trend now where independent media is getting stronger than mainstream media to some extent. And yeah, so it's very good.
Stefan, you just something to follow on from that. I was listening to one of your videos and you talked about the Spanish elections actually, and talking about media. So where do you get your information? Because you did a good take on the Spanish elections on Pedro Sanchez in November, and that was good. But where do you get, and where do you stand politically?
Well, I'm a nationalist, patriot, basically. That's what I am. Well, the information I get all from independent media. All my information comes from independent media. Yeah, but I also read The Guardian.
I do always.
Because
it's like comedy, yeah, comedy value.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see what they say actually about things. You see, I also listen to and I read really EU-funded media. You see, which I think The Guardian is. So, well, it's just good to know what they are up to, right?
Well, it was The Guardian yesterday reported Greta Thunberg, wasn't it? Going with yesterday or the day before, going on the BBC, doing a documentary for the BBC.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, that's, you know, if anything, how much propaganda can you actually pretend is not propaganda when you sort of you push Greta Thunberg as a documentary on the BBC?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so bored with Greta Thunberg.
But
the whole
Sweden,
thing, you know, I'm so bored with it.
I don't
There's a
understand you
question.
Swedes. Sorry, can I? I don't understand you Swedes. Right? I don't, because they seem to be one of the main countries. Sweden and Canada stands against for this global warming thing. It's a lie, for me a lie. But you're bloody freezing. Surely you'd be begging for global warming.
Yeah.
Jeremy, there's a question from Jason, please, to Stefan. May I ask it, Tracy? Could
Yeah.
I please ask if there is the same problem with censorship on social media like Facebook, like 30-day bans and people losing their accounts?
Oh yes, we do have this. Yes, people have to be careful.
Sorry, Jeremy.
Which I don't know where Tracy's gone.
Sorry.
Tracy's gone. I don't know what's happened. She's been
I
cut
think
off.
she's still showing up as being connected, but I think she's got internet problems. So
Okay.
maybe Tracy will need to disconnect and then
No, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I'm here. If I go blank, I'm still here.
Tracy, I just asked a question that Anna read out for me regarding the censorship on social media, like 30-day bans and losing people's accounts.
Yeah, what do you think on that, Stefan? Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did.
Briefly there, but he was in the middle of answering and then he came back in. But I'll pass back to you, Stefan, and tell Tracy again what you just told us.
Sorry, I didn't catch this last one.
Could you tell Tracy the answer to that question?
Yeah, I'm still here. I could hear it. I was still in the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
for some reason you couldn't hear. Yeah, you couldn't hear me, but I could hear you.
Yeah,
I mean,
Stefan was saying there's the same problem as Stefan said in Sweden.
yeah. Do you notice that, Stefan, with your own YouTube channel? Because I know my YouTube channel is shadow banned. I'm shadow banned on Twitter and I'm shadow banned on Facebook.
Yeah, I have the same thing. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a problem. So I look. I'm quite careful with how I word things. Yeah. Just
I've
so
noticed that today. Very careful. Very careful.
I am, yes.
Yes.
I let the people who comment do the talking.
Well, we have the same problem in Holland, Stefan.
I see.
Censorship all over the place.
I see.
And with Tommy Robinson, sorry, Anna, Tommy Robinson didn't even have the comments in there. He got banned for the comment section, what people said in the comments, other people.
Wow.
So you even have to be careful with that, because they'll blame you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. It's sick, actually. Freedom of speech. You know, I thought it still existed. But when I started doing this research and started talking, I realized it doesn't really exist. It's very bad.
So you always mention common sense on your videos. And I like that, because I think, and when has common sense ended? Because it seems to have ended on all mainstream media. Common sense seems to be just dying, dead. You're bringing it back, I think. I can see that. But what has happened to it? Why? Why is it gone?
Wow, what a question.
Go on.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just maybe it's a mix of things. The political correctness thing, I think it's really messing people up. Yeah.
Well, political correctness. Sorry, John.
Yeah, sorry. No, go on, Jeremy.
Political correctness is actually the banning of free speech.
Yes.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yes.
There's no difference.
It's stop debate, isn't it? It's all about stopping debate. All these labels, fascists, all of them, whatever you're called, is just about stopping a debate. For example,
common sense.
Yeah.
Political correctness.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, I went to Wales yesterday to attend a demo, and I was lucky enough to be asked to speak at that demo, which I did do. And there was an AM, I think an AM, if I'm correct. I know you're in the room, Dave Simpson. An AM, I'm presuming, is the equivalent to an MP here, I'm guessing.
It's the Welsh Assembly Minister, I think.
Yeah. Was meant to attend that. Now, these people at the demo who arranged this demo, you know, had really give this AM a lot of support. They now realise this AM may be someone completely different to what they thought he was. And he was messaging them and saying he wasn't going to attend because I was there. You know, and yet again, I was classed as far right.
So what are you, Tracy?
I'm not far right or I'm not right or left. I'm just an ordinary person. But this is what they do, you know, just try and stifle and stop someone speaking out by labelling them.
But everybody, the far left now, has stopped, doesn't it? Because, no, sorry, the left. It's very strange because I'm from Ebervale, I tell lots of you, and it's very working class, but they can't support the left wing anymore because the left wing has moved away from the working class. How the hell are they supposed to get back into power if they don't go back and say, because the one thing the working class hates is open borders, full stop, because it kills the workers. And they're never going to get back. Is it the same in Sweden? That the lower working class are being killed by open borders?
Oh, yeah.
Financially.
Oh, yeah. There's a debate going on right now about this, actually. Yeah, this is so true. But I was so happy to see the last election in the UK.
Yeah,
I was so happy to see
it. Parties would do for the working class, though, would they? The Conservatives or the Labour, nobody goes for the workers.
Really?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody at all.
No, they just enslave us and feed off us, you know, and buy their champagne off us. And as every time we're putting money into the treasury, they're taking it out the back door. You know, if you look at council tax, they keep upping that. Council tax used to be for the police, the fire service, the ambulance service, the cleaning of the streets and the road. Now it's for the education and so on and so on. All we are and what they've created is an enslavement system. And that is what the working class, the working people and the poor are. And that's why you've always got the same saying, the richer get richer and the poor will get poorer. And they will until we change and get out of the system that the government created. And you only come across this, the more you delve, the deeper you go, the more you look to find out what they've really done to us and what this is all about.
I was a teacher for a long time. My wife is now, and we have this discussion, and she's on board with it now. That the teaching is going too far into propaganda, telling people what to think, how to think, not to think certain directions, being closed down. Now, as not talking you now, we would be put in a far right box, and I think, well, I would consider myself quite centrist, but now I'm extreme right. Just because I'm talking to you, Tracy, who's considered extreme right, and John Lawrence is some kind of racist, so I don't know what I'm going to talk to him.
This is what I
and Dave Simpson, I'm not even going to talk to him because I'm going to get banned if I talk to him.
I know exactly. You'll get labelled, Jeremy, if you talk to me. And poor Stefan, you know, goodness knows what's going to come up on your comment box when you post this video, Stefan. You know, and we're just ordinary people here. But what it is that we get labelled because they know that we speak the truth. They don't want people to hear what we have to say. We're certainly, you know, I've never been a racist in my life and I never intend to be one either. And my stance on a lot of things may be different to some of the people in the room now. But that's just all to do with my research. And can I just say, the great Dave Simpson, who I missed not seeing yesterday in Wales, who I was hoping I'd get to see, has just joined us. Do you have a question for Stefan, Dave?
No, I just wanted to jump in about how can you say, if you're in Ebervale, how can you say that the Labour voters are now not attacking any of the others? I just wanted to pick you up on that, Jerry. Let me tell you.
No, I didn't say the Leave voters weren't attacking. No, I've never said that. The Leave voters, yes. No, I was saying the left wing, the working class is being left out. They've got nowhere to vote. They still vote Labour, some of them, the old ones, but they've really got nowhere to. Nobody supports them.
Well, I only got away with not being labelled in Wales because before Brexit and before I did anything national, locally, I was already well known because I'd stood up for the local community. Now, when the Labour Party set Hope Not Hate on me and that thing with Far Right Watch Wales. That was, let me tell you, it was unbelievable what they was trying to say to me. And they was trying to convince people, Hope Not Hate were, in Newport and surrounding areas, let me say, of another faith, that I was racist, yeah? But it just so happens I know a wide variety of people who all know there's no malice in me, and, you know, that's what it was. But let me tell you, Hope Not Hate and these people around here, if they get wind of you, and that Neil McEnroy, I did warn Joseph, and I did warn Sean Morris and Phil, and they'll all vouch for that. He's a wrong un. You know, just don't take any notice of that AM. He's a baddie.
Exactly.
So,
Just to ask Stefan, do you have like a Hope Not Hate in Sweden and a stand up to racism?
Oh yeah, we
And
do.
Antifa, do you have Antifa there?
Yes, we do. We have them, of course. Very active. Actually, I can tell you a story which happened today.
Please do.
Yeah, was a woman that I know living here close to where we live, who called me up and asked me to take part in this manifestation, light manifestation, you know, candle manifestation. And she wanted me to participate, and I asked her what was this all about, and it was anti-racist, you know, climate change things. And I just had to tell her that, you know, this is what I am. I'm a climate denier, in your words, so I can't participate, you know, protest against myself. So that's what we have, lots of this, and they are quite aggressive, very aggressive actually. There's been some studies done, and it shows that the left is responsible for more attacks against Jews, for instance, here in Sweden, than any, you know, Hitler lovers. So they are quite aggressive here.
Yeah, see here we know that they're controlled opposition, so I'm presuming they are there as well. So here they're government controls, yeah, Antifa, Stand Up to Racism, and Hope Not Hate. Some of the peoples that follow them obviously don't know they're controlled opposition, but that's exactly what they are. And we have so much of that going on. And it stands to reason that they would do that because the government, you know, and the people behind them, let's say, because it's not just the government, the people behind them and the people who come up with the theories, that they know at some point, with the people becoming aware, and a lot of people are becoming aware of things that are going on now more than ever, that they would get a controlled opposition. So they become the controlled opposition. And then every time there's new movements, they infiltrate those new movements, you know, and then the new movements end up not becoming a movement because they've infiltrated and it goes in the wrong direction and everything else. And this is how they do it. You know, every time there's a true movement, they infiltrate it. And that's what it's all about, to control it.
I see. Yeah.
I don't know if that goes on there. You know, you're far, I presume you have a far right as well, because to me, the controlled opposition on the left are the far left. You have a far right there?
Well, I wouldn't say we do, actually.
Yeah, or what the mainstream call it.
Oh yeah, we do. We have a quite a big nationalist party, but and they are proper nationalists. It's a good party, and they are now the biggest party here in Sweden. But if you look at them, look at their policies, it's really center liberal sort of politics. You see what I mean? It's just that they are anti-mass immigration. They want to regulate immigration. They are more pro-life than the other parties, but the real far, we have some real far right people, of course, but it's very small numbers, actually. They get lots of attention, though. You know, media want to make a big fuss about them. Every time you see them, media is there covering it and making this a big threat. But the real threat here in Sweden is not from the far right, not at all.
You get that over here as well. If I had a discussion with my daughter yesterday. Actually, she's gone back to Cardiff today, and she said about all the attacks. She's in a same-sex relationship, and she was saying, "Oh, how brave that bloody idiot on TV is for coming out. What is his name?" And I said, "No, he's not brave." And she said, "People are being killed." She sounded like Greta Thunberg. But when she looked at, I said, "Go on and show me." And there's nothing. They're not being attacked by the far right. They're not being attacked by us right. And it's just not true. If there is anything, it's in the papers. It's in the controlled media. Any single attack makes the controlled media. Stefan, Hillary Clinton inspired you. Me too. Yeah. Me too. Evil is rising, I say. But how did she inspire you? Come on, Stefan, talk about Hillary, because you said at the start, you said she inspired you. And I think she inspired a lot of us.
Yeah. Somebody commented, you know, that's the first thing Hillary did well. Yeah. Definitely. Well, it was just watching her, you know, it made me feel weird. It scared me, actually, listening to her. And I pictured her as the president of the United States, and I got scared. You know, honestly, I was scared. So
we dodged a bullet.
It was like a gut reaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can I just interrupt? Tracy touched on poverty in the UK, and am I correct in saying Sweden one of the richest countries in Europe, or well-off countries in Europe?
Sorry, I didn't catch this.
Stefan, is Sweden one of the richest or most well-off countries in Europe?
Well, it used to be, yeah, for a long time. As you know, Sweden didn't take part in the Second World War, and this was very beneficial for Sweden's economy. So we did very well in the 50s and the 60s. Now we are dropping quite rapidly on the lists of rich countries. Yeah, and our currency is dropping. Our welfare system is crumbling. So it's quite a situation here. I don't know where we stand. I doubt it. We are among the top countries anymore.
Why?
Norway is different. That's a rich country.
So, and then Tracy touched on poverty. So, do you have any figures maybe of like children in poverty in Sweden or something like that?
Sorry, no, I don't have any numbers. I don't think we have much poverty in Sweden. Basically, the state is supposed to take care of it, and they have been doing it for a very long time. We pay a lot of taxes here in Sweden, but now it's starting to crumble. As I said, the first parts of the welfare system that is actually visibly doing poorly is healthcare, the police force, you know, things like this. But they are still able to maintain a very high, relatively speaking, a high level of support for the poor.
Am I right in thinking it was Sweden about 2 years ago where a policeman got suspended for saying on social media that he'd only arrested people from, I think, Syria or Iraq in the last 2 or 3 years. Was that Sweden, Malmo, or somewhere like that?
Yeah, this is right. This guy was detective. He worked in a town called Örebro, and he was pissed off, I suppose, and he was looking through all the cases that he was working on, and he started to write down the first name of the guys, that the perpetrators, right? And then he published it on his Facebook page, and you know, the establishment went absolutely mad, and the police headquarters screamed. They wanted to kick him and things like this. So yeah, he did a fantastic job for the climate here, the debate climate in Sweden, because he just had the balls to publish the truth from his own desktop.
But don't you find the strangest thing is the left wing, especially? They're great opposition. They attack everything. They question everything. And then they get into power and they close speech down. Boom. It's the same with communism, that communists are great opposition. In any country, you need a far left opposition because they're great in opposition because they ask the right questions. But as soon as they get any kind of power, even if they like the BBC or somewhere like that, they close everything down. Is that the same in Sweden? So the left close down all speech now?
Yeah, they don't like people to talk, basically. Yeah. That's right. They don't want it.
And they call it hurt feelings, don't they? They don't like the word. I think they've been brought up kids who don't like the word no.
Sorry, I didn't catch this.
Well, I think the left, basically middle-class kids that have never been told no in their lives. And they don't like it when people say no and they have tantrums in adulthood.
I see.
That's what they seem like to me.
Yeah, I think so. They are very happy about democracy, for instance, as long as as long as they are winning, right? They are doing well, it's fine. But when they are not, they start to work against it.
Yeah, I think Trump was voted in, wasn't he? Wasn't that democracy and Brexit democracy? And
yeah.
I think so.
I think democracy is just an illusion, but that's just my opinion. Go on, John.
I just want to butt in again. You said about poverty, and you heard Trace said like there's 4 million people in poverty in the UK right now.
Children, John.
My town is around 260,000 people in it, and in my town there is 4 wards, which are small areas, council areas, and they are in the top 10 in the country for poverty. Right, but I can tell you why. Is that these 4 wards in Oldham, they're mainly immigrant, and they have in the household they have 4 to 5 children per household, and most of these people are not working, so straight away they will go into the poverty bracket. It never used to be like that, but that's what it's like now. The only other areas higher than the ones in Oldham are in London. Tower Hamlets is tops the list. So it's not that people are not going out working and earning decent money. It's that they're having too many kids and they're not working. These are figures I can prove to you that they're not working. So it makes Oldham look very like poor when really it shouldn't be, you know. And our local Labour Council, they put words in front of other words to make it look like it's not what I'm saying, but it's definitely what I am saying. That's why these areas are poor. So what's it like in the areas in Sweden, especially the ones where you have high immigration? Are they poor areas, or do they work, or what do you think?
Well, it's poor. Yeah, absolutely. More of them are on social benefits. That's right. We have more crime in these areas. So in Sweden, we have the police say themselves that there are areas where they won't go, actually, unless they have an escort. So if you call the fire brigade living in these areas, the fire brigade won't go there unless the police will be there as an escort, because many of these attacks on, for instance, the fire brigade, they throw stones at them and stuff. So these are what I call them, no-go zones. I won't go there, you see.
Stefan, I can really relate to you, because when you said about fire engine, there's a certain area in Oldham, and I can pull up 2 links where every time the fire engine's gone there, it's been bricked and attacked. You know what I mean? And the area in question is a well-known no-go zone in the UK. So I can really relate to you when you said that, especially when you said about the services, the police or ambulance or fire brigade, they get attacked going into these areas. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really awful. It's like parts of Sweden are sort of disappearing. It's not Sweden anymore. And it happened so fast in Sweden. It was perfectly okay up until maybe 1999. You see, so it happened very quickly. So I'm very sad about this, of course, and our politicians are they are too timid, and it doesn't seem like they want to handle it. It's like they just talk about it.
That was your comment on Buttigieg being soft, perfect women politicians or something like that. You said about Buttigieg and Canadian Prime Minister, all the same kind of people, just not prepared to tackle anything. Not alpha males.
Exactly.
Yeah. Jason asked a question. Anybody? Jason wants to know, have you got the problem in Britain? There's a massive problem with grooming gangs, Islamic grooming gangs, Pakistani Islamic grooming gangs. And it's now, most of us have known about it for a long time, but nothing was done about it. And now it's out. There's no question. I'm not making it up, as people have said in the past. I'm not being racist. Have you got that problem in Sweden with the Islamic grooming gangs, where they take young white girls?
Well, if we do have this problem, I really don't know about it. I'm sorry to say this. So I don't think it is a big problem in Sweden. We have more problems with rape statistics. I don't know. I don't know why.
I can answer that, and I think I know why. The same thing happened. The difference in that, I can answer why, which I think it's very important. I have mentioned it before, and I'll start with, if you go back to years ago when children were in care homes in this country, Stefan and everyone else, and in Northern Ireland, the children in care homes there, MI5 put cameras in these care homes. And in Islington, when Corbyn was the MP of Islington, Corbyn was well aware of the child brothels and what was happening to the children in the children's home, and he ignored it for his political career. And that says everything about a man in itself. Anyway, so what they did, they put these cameras in, and they did that so they could catch the MPs, the rich white men, do horrid things to children. Children were abused. And they filmed these not to safeguard the children, so that they could blackmail all the MPs, and anyone else who went in there. And some of them MPs is really shocking to find out who they are. The same with any grooming gang. The reason why it was hidden is what you have to question yourself. Why was it hidden? Why was it covered up for 16 years? Why was nothing done to safeguard these children? It's the same thing, because MI5 are behind the grooming gangs, just like they're behind the MDL, controlled opposition, so that they were groomed as well for rich white MPs and rich white men. I've spoken to a couple of victims. They were groomed for rich white men. We have to face reality of what is going on here and why so many people do what they do to the people of this country, why they ignore the abuse to children. Why do they do that? And you've got to look at the reason why. And it's not just because of political correctness. It's not. I thought at the beginning of my own case that a lot of it was to do with political correctness in my own case. But it's not. Yeah? It's not just that. It's deeper and darker. And that's why there is so many people, so many MPs in this country. It's rife. It's rife. We're one of the main centres for it all. And that's why, you know, as you said, Stefan, it's not something you've noticed about in your own country. Yeah. Yet we all have a similar problem, but you don't have that problem. And it's because in this country, they're being used to do that so that they can blackmail these people to do what they're doing to us in all these departments in the establishment.
But
That's
this is
the reality.
the industrial complex as well. This is everything together. All the Oxbridge bang each other's dicks in the door brigade. The whole thing from the top.
Yeah.
And yeah, then that's exactly what it's all about. And we're just the bottom. We're just the fodder. We supply the money.
Yeah,
We're
it's just important. It's just important for me to say the whole thing behind it and not just direct it at that, because it's not the case. Even in my own case, it's not just this, you know, which you will see that at some point this year. You know, with our own case, it would have come out quicker. But as we've gone along, we've come across so many other things that we've had to delve even longer, and it's gone on longer for a specific reason, but it has to be right. So nothing should just be rushed. But yeah, it's deeper and darker than what anyone realizes. Yeah, it's the propaganda that makes you just go down this certain narrative. Yeah, but you've got to look at what surrounds that. Why is it like that? Why has that been allowed to happen? Why was it ignored? It wouldn't make sense that it's just political correctness. It just wouldn't make sense. But that's what they lead us to believe under propaganda, but it's deeper and darker than that. That's why we have so many narcissists and evil people running every single department in our establishment, from social services. You know,
first interview I did on here, the first interview was with Caroline, I can't say Caroline's second name. And that's exactly what she said. She worked with Nigel Farage.
That's Caroline Stevens.
Caroline Stevens, yes, Caroline Stevens. And that's exactly what she said. She said people get to the top because they got secrets in the background and they can be controlled. And she said, you'd be amazed at every single top politician, without question. She said you might find one or two that haven't, but they don't get to the top. The shit floats to the top. Do you think it's the same in Sweden, Stefan?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I certainly believe it. I believe this. It's not about political correctness. It's darker. I actually, yeah, absolutely. Well, our politicians are sort of what I saw in Sweden was, you know, about the Bilderberg group.
Yes.
Yeah. What I noticed with the Swedish politicians was that some of these upcoming politicians, they were brought to the Bilderberg meetings, and when they came back, they were sort of different, and they were more frantic about certain things.
Sanchez in Spain.
Yeah, and they were assisted, so their careers were guaranteed, sort of, by all these influential people with power and money. So this is what I see as a problem in Sweden. It's the hardcore globalists that we have, and at one point they were sort of everybody. You know, they were controlling each party, and it was really bad. And now it's sort of changing now, but that's the problem that I see here. I don't know much about Swedish politicians and dark secrets. Of course, I'm sure they are, that they exist, I'm sure.
And the psychological terrorism used by the media, is that still going on the same? Because in the UK, in Spain, it's all day, boom, boom, boom. Bad things for kids, hurt, but telling kids that things are going bad and hurting kids. The media does it all the time. They use kids all the time. It's Hitler propaganda machine. You know, use the kids. It's all for the kids, but it's not for the kids. It's to get the kids. It's to get them when they're older to believe the shit.
Yeah.
Psychological propaganda, full stop.
Can I ask you, in where you are, what do you think about the coronavirus? How's your country protecting against the coronavirus? I already said a couple of weeks ago, this virus will kill 5 million people. That's what it's designed to do, and it's all part of a bigger plan. How do you feel about it in your country?
In Sweden, we had one case so far. Somebody who was, I think she was working in China, came back to Sweden, and she was detained, and I don't know her situation now. But we had one case. I don't pay much attention to the coronavirus. I don't. We'll see.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't either. But you know, that's just me. But yeah, I don't either. I'm with you on that, Stefan.
All right. Well,
Can I ask you a question, Stefan?
yes.
How's teaching in your schools? Is there much indoctrination? Like in my schools and university, it's all this lefty stuff you hear, and they try to push children, students, anyway, everybody on school to think a certain way. Like when I was in school, I was learned to think for myself. But over the decades, I could see how that changed. Even when my daughter went to school, I'm 57. My daughter is 31 now. And I saw a little change there and then when she went to school. And I was on top of it because I didn't want that. But is it in your country? Is in your country indoctrination on schools?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like
And what do the parents do about it? Do they follow that, or don't they see it, or have they an attitude? Oh yeah, well they go to school and fine by us.
well, I would guess that about 80% of the parents don't know about it. That's my guess, and 20% know about it and protest it. Yeah.
Have you had the car crash yet between the Muslim community and the transgender community? That's just about going on over here at the moment, because I find that quite amusing. Is it happening over there yet? Where you've got your far left hurty feeling brigade, you know, a man with a penis can be a woman who has a baby by another man, against very traditional Muslims. Have they butted heads yet over there?
No, not yet.
Well, they will. You wait. That's something to look forward to.
Can I ask you a question, Tracy?
Sorry, yes, of course.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Hello, Stefan. It's Jason here. We've asked you lots and lots of questions, and I would like to know if you've got any questions you'd like to ask us about things in our country, because I feel this is a bit one-sided. We're asking you lots of questions, and I'm sure you must have questions to ask us as well.
Good point, Jason.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
We're all very
No problem. Well, I'm very interested in what's going on in England and the UK, of course, and the Irish election. What do you think about the Irish election? Happened last weekend.
Sinn Féin, difficult to forgive from my point of view. I've been in the army, and my grandfather as well, and I find Sinn Féin a difficult thing for me. Very. Yeah. You know, you can say one man's freedom fighter is another man's whatever, but for me, they're IRA supporting scum.
I see. The thing that I noticed about Ireland is that there is no real populism, no populist party, really. It's tough for them in Ireland. Why do you think this is?
There's one. I've been trying to contact them to come on and speak to me, and they're for IREC.
Is this the DUP? Is that a lady nationalist party?
No, DUP's in Northern Ireland, isn't it?
Oh, right, sorry.
No, there's a Irexit party for Ireland out. I don't think they did very well in the elections, but they were fielding a lot of candidates. I can't think of the name of the party though. Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to get him to come on to my show actually to talk about it and ask the same question you just asked. Why there's not so much populism in Ireland?
Yeah, they seem to be very pro-EU as well in Ireland.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I'm just curious about this, why this is. I'm also interested in Nigel Farage a lot. Is he? What's the general opinion about Nigel Farage these days in the UK? Is he considered a hero?
I mean,
From
other
minute to
people,
minute.
other people in the room may differ in their opinion to me on this. But what I will personally say for me, Stefan, there was a time before what happened to me, and I listened to a speech that Farage did in the EU, and I thought it was fantastic. But what I now realise that these people can say fantastic speeches, knowing that it's not going to go nowhere, or it may go somewhere because every party is infiltrated in the United Kingdom. But for me personally, I believe it's all an act, and it's been an act. I can give references why I believe that, but I have to then go back to 2016 and then jump to the elections of 2019 to point it all out. Again, it's propaganda. But that's my personal opinion. But Jeremy, may think he is a hero, and I respect if that is his opinion. It's just mine on what I've researched.
I changed my mind daily on him. He seems to be up and down, up and down. Seriously, he's a very difficult guy.
Can I just say something? I heard you talking about Ireland, and on Friday, it was my first cousin Paul, so my mum's sister's son, his funeral, died at 62. Good man, but I found out that I've got 20% Irish blood in me.
Get out. Get out.
Honestly,
get out.
I have. And he's traced back my mum's family 22 generations in England to something like 1300s. And the people at the top of the list who start it off are called Lord and Sir. So I've been telling everyone that they can address me as Lord or they can address me as Sir. Sorry, I just thought I'd have to say that.
That's okay, Sir John, no problem.
Sir John.
I think Ireland is a lot like Britain. The being the so-called nationalists are being put down. I follow a woman called Gemma Doherty, and she does a lot of stuff over there, and they're struggling. I think the government might be pro-EU, but I think the people aren't. Just the same as here. But obviously the government have control, so and infiltration and all the parties and that, so they're going to get what they want. But hopefully Ireland will change. And I mean, the last time I was in Ireland was in mid-90s, about 1995. And when I look at it now, it's just like a totally different country. And it's not that many years, really, in a span. And it looks a totally different country, honestly.
Oh. I'm also wondering about England. I was in England in 1981, in the southern parts, Sussex. And it was so nice. I just loved it. And I've been wondering what it's like. It's like are there still major areas still where England is like it used to be, or do you feel that England has changed or deteriorated as in the same sense that London has, or do you still find these very nice,
quiet, nice areas, Stefan? Very outside the major cities. There's still a lot of very sort of conservative, nice areas. I'm from Wales. Outside the valleys, you go a bit further north, Wales, Llandudno. It's all like this very nice areas.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear this.
Where
I'm happy to see. I'm very happy to hear this.
Where I think for me, on what I see with our traditions and with our way of life and how we was when our communities, you know, when we was growing up, the communities were mixing. They cared about everyone. No one would think twice about knocking next door to borrow some milk or for some sugar if they run out. Everyone seemed to care a lot more about people back then than they do now. I believe a lot of that is the indoctrination, the splitting up of families, making the man work as well as the wife work while the child is being indoctrinated in school. You know, it's everything that's going on. You know, I don't recognise, not specifically where I live, because I live in a very small village, which is a community. So, you know, where I live, it's slightly different because it is so small. But when you step out and go into the towns, you don't recognise it. You know, you don't see loads of people standing on the corner as adults talking, going to community centres. People used to go to the pubs and talk. A lot of them are being closed down. But everything that's been done has been done by design. It's been done intentionally, you know, to get where we're at now.
Of
Yeah,
course.
but that's the same that happens in Holland, you know, Tracy. Yeah, you call them pubs. Many pubs are closed. Community play where people can go, you know, even for the children. I want to ask Stefan this question. Are your traditions, and you have many, are they under attack?
No, well, maybe to
It
some
depends
extent.
where you live.
Yeah, but I would say Sweden is like, you know, the old Swedish culture.
Yeah.
It's still here. It's just that we have other cultures here now as well. But the people who likes the old way of living, they are still here, and they still live this life, of course, with their traditions. It's just that we now have, it's sort of divided. Sweden is sort of splitting apart, and we have certain areas that are very, very different from the old Swedish culture, of course.
Yeah, and that's what bothers me, you know, Stefan. You can see it all over Europe, except from some countries like Hungary, mainly the East European countries. Italy is on the edge, but it's mostly the Western European countries who are suffering from this, that you have to be ashamed, or that you can't be proud anymore of your traditions, your culture, your flag, your language. And I think by myself, why? Why is it wrong
Unless
for
it's a
me?
minority language, then you have to be very proud of it.
Say it again, please, Jeremy.
Unless it's a minority language, and then it's pushed as the greatest thing in the world. If it's a minority language or minority people, it's pushed as great. If it's a bigger one, it's seen as negative.
There I can see your problem, because English is an international language.
Yeah. Tracy, coming back to what you said about why. Have you ever read Aldous Huxley? Got it here. Brave New World. Because I think that's the basis of it. It's this breakdown of society. If you break down strong society goals, it's easy to control. If you break down the family, if you break down man-woman bonds, marriage, families, it needs to be, and religion, it needs to be replaced by something. The government is the fundamentalist cults, whether it be climate control, you replace it with something else. And I think that's a genuine goal, that if we can start getting rid of families, from what you said, free children, sort of children outside, protection of families, because the only thing that can protect children are families. It's not the government. Government can't do bugger all. It's a strong father and mother together. And that's what I argue with a lot of people, because that's what I believe in. Strong families get together, produce good children, mother, father, bringing up really well, and doing a good job. It's hard, and I know single mothers, a lot will say that's terrible. I'm not against single mothers, but I think the best solution is a married couple, because it's easier. It's proved through history to be how things are done. And I think the governments are trying to stop that, and the left is trying to break that up so they can take power. That's my fundamental belief.
Well, you're right on that, because I posted a picture on Saturday of a statue that's appeared in Uxbridge, where the Yellow Vests were doing a demo on Saturday. And what it was, I looked at it and I thought, right, that means something. And what it was a single lady holding one child here, one child there, and a dog. And to us, that's what that represented. Exactly what you just said. Pointing out that that's okay. I'm not saying it isn't, because my youngest child's father passed away unexpectedly when I was pregnant. So for a time you are single.
Well, that's too hard then, isn't it?
You are not in. Not every relationship is perfect, so you do end up single. But the point you're pointing out is not saying that there's anything wrong with being single and being a single parent. It's the fact that it's being done by design.
Yes,
say that's the way to go. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying
just before we get
exactly
all people
that.
complaining, so I know what you're saying.
Exactly that.
Yeah,
that you should be pushing the best solution. Not saying the other solutions are wrong, but the best solution is a strong family. And
like you say, it's all by design to break the families up, to break the unit up. And the same with the country. And I don't know if you feel the same as this, Stefan, or whether it's just not at the point we're at, in this country. Maybe what's happening in this country is going to happen to yours. It's all being done slowly, isn't it? I'm finding from my research about depopulation replacement, get rid of us slowly, and get rid of the indigenous people, no matter what colour you are. I'm talking the indigenous people that are brought up here, that believe they're, that are British. Slowly get rid of them, and then you don't have people that have an allegiance to the country, like patriots. A patriot to me, and what I've always believed, is someone who stands up to a tyrannous establishment and protects the people, the children, and the country. That's what a patriot is to me. But the government, through the schools, has made people believe it's something different to what it is. And if you don't have people in that country that has an allegiance to that country, it's then easy for the government and globalism to control, because they're not going to care, are they? Any people that is indigenous to their country will care about their country and care about people.
Yeah, Tracy, I mean, we're all in agreement that the family unit is really important. And in these days and ages, Stefan, they tell you that you can do anything on your own. You can do this on your own. You can do that on your own. Now, it's obviously easier with two people. My family have had some problems, but as a unit, as a family unit, we came together and sorted out our problems. And it's a big thing over here where they're pushing to break up our family unit, which leads to loads of other issues and stuff like that. I just want to touch on something. At the beginning, Stefan, you said about crime increase. And in the UK, even though Jeremy says there's some nice places, nationally, our crime statistics have gone up. Every major town or city in the UK is suffering under crime. And it was while I was down when President Trump came in 2018, and I stood with Tracy and some others, and some lads who didn't come to London, what they did, they got some banners and went up to Manchester, and they got accosted by a load of kids. And these kids, this is what the kind of thing these kids were saying: England's anybody's country. That's the kind of things they were saying. these kids. And these were the kids who were aggressive in front of policemen against these lads. They wanted to attack them. And all they had were banners. They weren't shouting anything. But I was a victim of a stabbing in 2018. And the perpetrators were aged between 15 and 20. And I'm sure Tracy will tell you that is a really good age for crime in the UK. When you hear about all these stabbings in London, it's people aged between 15 and 20 years old more than anything else. And it's across our country. Now, you said, Stefan, that crime's on the increase. Can you give us a bit more detail about that? What kind of crimes, which areas are these crimes in?
Well, a recent statistic that we got was robberies against kids. Just an example. There was a raise of I think 31% from last year. So that's just one thing, and we do have lots of crimes. It's a terrible situation here with the increase, and we compare to what it was like, of course, and it's really a big difference in Sweden. That's one of the reasons I moved from the capital city of Stockholm. I left last year and moved to this rural area where I live now, because you can sort of feel it. It's getting closer, the crime. And it's basically in the suburbs of the big cities and in the big cities, of course, and in some smaller towns as well, where you can see these criminal gangs growing and stuff. And it's like you said, John, these guys are very, very young. In Sweden, we have a very low sentences for young people. And if you are, well, these criminal gangs, they take advantage of this. So they recruit kids, basically.
Same here.
12, 13 years old. Yeah.
Same here in Holland.
Yeah.
There is a question from Jason Tracy to Stefan.
Yeah.
Can I
I was
ask
just
it?
going to get to that. I just wanted to if that's okay, Anna, just quickly reiterate on something Stefan said there, and John. There's a lot of people in this country, because they're not showing the real crime statistics, because they're not showing every murder that is really happening today, because there's many and they're only showing one or two. They're hiding many things. And a lot of people believe it's just a London thing, that this is just all hitting London and not coming out into the suburbs, like you've just said, Stefan. It is going out into the suburbs, and a lot of it isn't reported, and this is what people need to start recognising. The people who think, oh, well, it hasn't happened to me, so on and so on, that it could be at your door tomorrow. It's very serious what's going on in the country. And Anna, I'll just come to what Jason has just asked. Thank you. Stefan, how are your veterans and your soldiers treated in Sweden, like in the UK? And I don't know if it's the same in Holland for you, Anna. The veterans, we have over thousands. I don't know the real statistic because I know they lie. It might be 7,500, it could be 14,000 veterans on our streets. The veterans with PTSD that don't get the help from the MOD and the mental health institutions because they're not what we think they are. How your soldiers and veterans are treated in your country?
Well, that's a very simple, easy question to answer. We don't have veterans here. We haven't been in a war for more than 200 years here in Sweden. So,
blimey. Can I just ask, there's a question from the room from Elliot. He has asked Stefan, can you, they've put, I hear Sweden Democrats are becoming more popular in the national polls. What is your opinion on the Sweden Democrats, and do you think they can win in Sweden in an election?
Yeah, they are doing very, very well. And it's basically the workers, actually, who's leaving the socialist parties and going to the nationalist party, which is the Sweden Democrats. And they are now the biggest party in Sweden. They have about, in the polls, they get 23, 24%. So they are beating the socialists. Yeah, things are changing here in Sweden. I'm very happy to say this.
Can I ask you, Stefan, then about your parliament? How many, like among my country, our parliament has 150 seats, and in the UK it's 650. I have, if I'm right, Tracy. How many seats? How is your parliament constructed? Do you have a, like in my country, we have like in the UK, House of Lords, we call it the Senate, and we have our House of Commons. How is it in your country?
We just have a parliament. It's 350 seats.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how it works.
They're dangerous just having a parliament with nothing else, because democracy itself, in my opinion, can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
Pure democracy is dangerous at times.
Yeah, of course.
It can be, what is the saying? Two wolves eating a sheep. It can be very dangerous if you're in the minority.
Yeah.
Like if you're Welsh or something like that.
Trouble is, you know, I mean, I don't know how it is in Sweden. Yet again, this is here in the UK, and what I saw on this last election, by being in the university when they was doing the count, you could see a lot of dodgy handshakes going on and nods and all sorts. And what I experienced going through the election as an independent, because I stood in this election, Stefan, and I can see it's fraudulent. You know, I knew it anyway, because if voting worked, we would never be able to vote. So for me, anyway, it's just my opinion. What I saw going through the election, I believed it before, but I saw it going through the election. You know, you can so easily manipulate the voting system in this country. You know, it should be transparent, isn't it? There's so much that I could say about it. You know, and I saw it, and we tested it. We tested it. You can go in, you can get the list from the library of every person that lives in the borough, their name and address. You can go into the community centre where they can vote. You can say you're that person from that address. No need to show ID or no need to show anything. You go and put your cross. Always use the pen and not a pencil. And if the real person goes in later to do that vote, even if they say, well, you've already voted, and they say, well, no, that wasn't me, and they show them ID that wasn't them, that they have their ID, they just tell them to go and complain to the Electoral Commission, and they're not allowed to vote. So there's so many ways, and they just use a person, they pick a person in the community centre to move that ballot box to where they go and count them. And you can easily switch them over, because all they are is crosses on a piece of paper. That's all they are. Crosses are, you know, X marks the spot and all of that, you know. And like I say, I saw loads of things. And, you know, if me as an independent was kept from 4 hustings, but I managed to get to 1, what about all across the board, across the country, to the other independents, you know, to the other people? It's easily manipulated. So I don't trust any of it anyway, personally. And I know, John, you had some experience with...
yeah. A girl who I know, West Indian born, she run as MP for Oldham, Saddleworth and East, and out of 4 hustings, she only got to 1 of them, and she was adamantly sure that they had all the details and everything, and Oldham's already been under the hotspot for voter fraud and postal fraud many times. So yeah, honestly, we can't trust them. It's only now we're even getting to see a little bit. When people just used to leave the voting to whoever did, you voted and that were it. and there were no social media. And I can imagine in the past how many times they've rigged voting elections and stuff like that. Honestly.
Yeah, we saw it, didn't we? There was one town, Stefan, that the votes that were counted was more than what the people were in that town.
Wow.
You know, so they don't even care when they do it in your face. That's
Wow.
so obvious. And these are the things we experience in this country. You know, in your country, Stefan, obviously you're aware of many things. Would you say there's I know you've got many subscribers on your YouTube channel. I will just reiterate, it is Sanity for Sweden, which is Stefan's YouTube channel. If anyone would like to subscribe, who's looking in the room and look at Stefan's
People,
video.
it's brilliant.
It is good.
Thanks.
I'll give you that, Stefan. It's pretty cool. But
Thank you.
make sure you get other channels up on BitChute and things like this, because they'll take you down at some point.
Yeah,
I have. I upload on BitChute. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Britain has been so. It's been such a pleasure to study what's going on in Britain. It's been so interesting over the past years, and I was so fascinated by this situation that you had with Theresa May, and you voted to leave, and what happened. I could just imagine how you felt about what they did to you guys, and it must be quite liberating now that you actually got. I don't know what you think about Boris Johnson.
Left.
I'm starting to like Boris Johnson.
Well, I'll do my opinion first, and then Jeremy and John can do theirs. It might differ again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But going back to Theresa May, what you mentioned first, Stefan, what I find amazing, and yet again, this is propaganda when people really think about it. Theresa May was going to give a deal, and no one wanted it, of course. No one wanted a deal. We didn't vote for a deal. It didn't say leave or remain, leave with a deal, and so on and so on. It was leave or remain, and that's what it should have been, leave with no deal. Because you can trade without a contract. You don't need it. You can trade with anyone. All that, what they say, they're just, again, propaganda, right? So Theresa May was going to give a deal. Everyone was against that. Of course we were. No one should have had to fight and go out on the streets and anything, whatever the will of the majority is who voted. I can guarantee if Remain had won, you would not have had all Brexiteers out on the streets standing against that, because you don't. You respect the will of the majority. And that's what it is about democracy. And obviously, they were closing democracy down by doing what they was doing. So Theresa May comes in, says she's going to leave with a deal. Everyone's against it because we wanted to leave with no deal. Then it's like bad cop, good cop. Yeah, Theresa May goes, Boris comes in and tells everyone he's going to give a deal. Same as Theresa May's deal. And everyone's conceded and gone, well, at least it's something. No. But that's what they did. Yeah, they wore people down for 3 years. So people got to the point that when Boris did come in, you know, and he's got his let's get Brexit done, boxing gloves on, doesn't care how silly he looks, because that's how the propaganda machine works, and just done the same deal. And, you know, for me, I don't trust them and we haven't left, but that's for me. But everyone on the 31st of January deserved that moment because they've been put through the mill for 3 years.
Tracy, damn you, I got to agree with you. but I think now, because we're not completely out, now we're going to go further out than initially thought, than the way you think. We're going to go further apart. I think we are. We'll still be dealing with Europe. Of course we will.
Yeah, I hope you're right, Jeremy, and I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
But,
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I live in Europe, as you know, and there's a lot of people here who are anti-European Union. Very much so. But you don't hear about it. You hear nothing about it on the media.
Yeah.
In all over Spain, Catalonia, there's a lot of anti-European Union people, but it's like 0% in the polls. How is that? When I speak to people and they all agree with me. Either they're just scared to argue with me or they just do generally agree with me. Lots of people think I don't give a shit about Europe. What are we in European Union for?
Yeah.
But there's 0 polls on it here almost in Catalonia.
Thank you, John. What do you think on what was said?
Boris Johnson, I never thought he would ever make a good prime minister at all. I said that from the very beginning. To me, he's too much of a joker. But I definitely don't like him. I hate him now since I seen him when Nicola questioned him on the thingies, and he sort of like, no, I don't know nothing, you know, like you've had what, you know, honestly, and it's just cemented my view. And he's the same as the rest of them. He's a puppet being used or whatever, for sure. Same as Theresa May. To me, we need grassroots people in power. People like Tracy, people like my mate Amoy, who have been on the working class ground. All these people are in power now. They already had the silver spoon in the mouth and they didn't have to work for it. So they can all go. I want them all out, mate. Honestly, I want them all out.
Anna?
Yeah?
What do you think on what we've just said and what Stefan said?
She wasn't listening.
About Boris?
Yeah, Boris.
All right, Anna, that's all right.
Yeah. Funny enough, I just let my cat out, whose name is Boris. Well, Boris Johnson. I remember when I first got to learn about Boris Johnson when he was the mayor of London. And I thought, oh, what a charming man, you know, on his bicycle, and he was a good mayor. But now that he is a prime minister, more difficult for him to stand his ground, I think, even though it's the biggest party now. But I think he has not, although he has a big mouth, he's a loud mouth, a big mouth. I don't know if he's strong enough to go against the EU. I don't know, and we don't know what his agenda is. You don't know what his agenda is in his head.
Hello, Tracy.
I think whoever's pulling his string, what's in their head. Dave,
say it again, please, Tracy.
Oh, sorry, Anna. I said I think it depends on what's in whoever's pulling his strings in their head.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. You know, I mean, if I look at my prime minister, years ago he was against the EU. Now that he has become prime minister for decades now, 8 years, 10 years now. Now he's all pro-EU, and I think to myself, what has changed there? Yeah, because we are in the EU and they control us, and the EU is controlled by the UN, the bankers, everything.
Hello, Tracy.
All right.
Hello, Tracy. Anna just mentioned about Boris being the mayor of London. Could I ask Stefan if he's heard anything in Sweden about our current mayor of London? Because that's quite a
Sadiq Khan. Yeah.
I'm muting.
Yeah, I actually talked about him quite a lot on my channel. Yeah, Sadiq Khan. Yeah.
He's not very popular, you know, with a lot of people.
I understand this. Yeah. Well.
Again, by design.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, all you guys. I have to go to bed.
Oh no, thank you, Stefan. Obviously, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're very humbled that you joined us. And I'll just say again, it's Sanity for Sweden #4 on YouTube is where you can find Stefan.
It was a real
with you tonight.
It was a real pleasure.
I'll put the link up in the chat. And Stefan, honestly, you must come on and speak to us again, please.
I will be happy to. Absolutely. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.
And
Stefan.
I like the cap you're wearing, John.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very patriotic, me. I even have a onesie, a Union Jack onesie. I should have put it on tonight, actually.
That looks fantastic. I love it.
Thank you
good
so
night,
much,
Stefan.
All right,
Thank
good
you
night.
very much.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Stefan.
Take care.
Cheers.
Care.
Be good.
Be good.
Jeremy, I want to get in contact with Posey Parker.
I can send her a message. I can't give out her phone number.
You don't have to. Send her a message. She knows who I am, and I want her to come on a stream.
Okay, I can try. I can send her a message, or I can give you her email. No,
Email. Pass me on the email.
Okay, and I'll send her you. I can WhatsApp her as well because I got a number there. So yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
I won't be till tomorrow. I'm going now because it's 20 to 12 here. I start work at
the time.
No, it's 20 to 11 for us, Tracy.
20 to 12 for me.
Where are you, Jeremy?
I'm I'm just about an hour north of Barcelona.
Do you know what? I thought you was in Wales. That's where you was.
I said my daughter went home yesterday.
Oh my goodness! Just going. I was never very good.
I've never kept it a secret. I've always said I lived out here.
Don't ask. Don't ask. I'm crap on geography anyway. But listen, thank you so much for joining us, Jeremy, tonight and being on the show with me on my time. Thank you very much, and see you soon, Jeremy.
Thanks very much, and I'm going. Goodbye. You have a good time. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Jeremy.
Bye.
Bye.
John, you all right for about another 20 minutes?
Of course I am, yeah. Of course I am.
That's 4 countries tonight. We've got Holland, Sweden, UK, Catalonia. United Nations.
And Wales. And Wales. Dave's there from Wales. Although he's quiet.
Yeah.
I just want to go on about the mayor, and I want to go back to when Boris was mayor. You know, Sadiq Khan, you know, the more you look into it, you can tell that everything he does, which isn't a lot, by the way, in the sense of isn't a lot what he does for the people in London. It's all by design putting in there, because what mayor, you know, no matter what you think about the president of America, I have my own opinion again on that. But no matter what you think, how would a mayor of London, when you've got a government that's meant to be above the mayor, a queen that's meant to be above the government, be allowed to allow all that demonstration and fly baby balloons, yeah, no matter what you think, you know, against the president of America? A mayor would just not be allowed to do that, you know, without the go-ahead of people above them. So to me, from what I've learned and I'm learning, everything he does is by design, and he doesn't really do a lot apart from control TfL, and they make as much money as they can off, again, the people. Of course, you may have to you have to pay for travel, but it's extortionate. You know, John, you know yourself, it costs a bomb for you to come from Oldham down to London. You know, it costs a bomb, you know, and in the end, people won't even be able to afford to go by trains anywhere. You know, and that's another thing that's going to be their agenda, isn't it? Stop people communicating. Yet they're building this big HS2 from London to Birmingham, and only the rich people will be able to afford those tickets. So when they try and say it will benefit us, no, it doesn't benefit us at all. It doesn't benefit us one bit. It benefits them, but they will try and, you know, reverse psychology it, try and tell you all this benefit and create jobs. It only creates a job as long as it's being made. Yeah, that's all it creates a job for. But in the meantime, it's taking people's jobs, it's taking people's lands, it's hurting animals. You know, people who care about animals, which is the animal welfare rights, it's hurting them. You know, it's taking people's homes. I know where I live, the amount of homes it's taken that have been here. Some of these homes are grade listed. Now, these people haven't been able to do anything with their homes because they're grade listed buildings. All of a sudden, HS2 come in and they use an act, yeah, to try and take away their homes, which they're going to be moved and they've lived there all their life. So everything is by design and to suit them. And they don't care about us. I know that firsthand. Going back to Boris when he was mayor, Boris said he wouldn't cut the fire service. And what did he do? He cut the fire service. You know, this time, before the general election, he said he would stop the persecution of the vets. The vets are still being persecuted. He said before the election there would be 20,000 new police. After the election, he said there'd be 20,000 new police. But let me remind you that Boris, back in 2016, voted to take away 21,000 police. Right? People have just got to remember, because it's easy to forget. And I get that. I get it's very easy to forget these things. He's now promised 40 new hospitals, 20,000 police, amongst other stuff. And what you have to look to prove that it's just all propaganda is check out everything that he said he will do, and you will find he won't do any of it. We might be lucky to get 1 or 2 new hospitals. Yeah, and when you look at the hospitals, I looked up a charity the other day. It's actually called Ickle Pickles, this charity. More grassroots charity, really. And the people who raise funds for it are just ordinary people, again, like us, you know, going out, creating events. And that charity, you know, they raise funds and they pay for equipment for hospitals. Well, shouldn't the equipment for the hospitals come from the taxes we're paying? No, because the taxes we're paying is going straight into their pocket. And that's what we need to wake up to. The money that's going in the Treasury is going in through the front door from us and out through the back door to them.
You know, I'm just touching up on what you said there.
The truth of the matter is, sorry, John, the truth of the matter is, in any country, including this one, any wealth is meant to be shared between the people. That is everybody. Everybody in this country should be rich, or at least living at a good standard of living, because they are meant to share that with us. And that is where they have fraudulently deceived us. Yeah, that is what they've done.
Sorry to interrupt you, Tracy. We've got Sean Morris in the chat room 3 minutes ago asked, can I jump in? I know you're coming to an end, but can Sean come on quickly for a quick chat?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Sean, if you're listening, click on Tracy's photo and you'll be able to come straight in.
Yeah, this is the point, right? They've fraudulently fleeced us and created debt slaves to us. You know, there's people on low wages that have to use food banks, as well as the benefit, you know, universal credit is a death benefit. It's a death benefit. Yeah, all by design. People can't survive on the money they're being given. And yet, look at it like this, right? They take the money from the public purse and they build houses. Let's say they build houses, then they put people in, but they're not all social housing houses. They build houses and sell them to the rich. Where do you think the money goes? It doesn't go back in the public purse, because we don't then have our taxes lowered. You know, people have got to see what they're really doing. Or they build, you know, let's say Wembley and let private companies use it, or sell parts of it off for privatisation, and still don't share the money. They're taking it all. They're taking the pensions. They're bleeding us dry. And they don't want the people to find out the truth of what they've been doing to us, which is everything they gain and all the wealth they have should have been shared to all the people. And I'm sure Sean Morris will explain this when he comes on. Is he here?
Not yet, he's not. I'm sure he will be in a minute.
The pension thing, though, is not new, is it? It's been going on absolute years, hasn't it?
Of course it is. That's why I knew, I didn't know even a quarter of what I know now before this happened to my son. But I knew back then when they upped the pension age, the only reason they did that was hoping that more would die before they reached that age to get the pension. It wasn't to give you still a better standard of living to let you allow you to work a few more years. You know, it's all reverse psychology.
When you think about it, Tracy, every pensioner in the country has been conned because they paid in all their life, and when they get to the age of 55 or 57, and all of a sudden the government come out with, well, actually we're going to raise the pension age now, they conned a lot of them, thousands, millions.
Yeah. And what they do, and it's a very good point that Aunt Sally has just put in there, because what they do, all these debt they create, we pay. And like Aunt Sally's just put in there, all they share between the people is that our grandchildren are going to be paying for HS2. And she's right. You know, we are just their debt slaves, but they're fraudulently, it's fraudulent, created us our debt slaves. And the way to free yourself is to learn the law again, because it's what's lawful against what's legal. So what we have is other companies running the council. There's one main company that runs most of the councils that you wouldn't even know the councils are run by an outside source. You would think the council is run by the council. And let's take council tax, for example. When you get a summons for council tax, it's not a legal summons. If you get in touch with the court and ask them to share with you the laying of information to prove that you have been served with a legal summons from court, you will find that you haven't been. You will find that people can actually, this is amazing, this one, can actually book courtrooms. And the councils do it to fraudulently take council tax. It's a fraudulent tax. All taxes are fraudulent. And this is how they done it. Yeah, this is how they deceived us. And I will go back because this one I will tell you, and you can please research everything I tell you. That's what I did when someone told me things, I research it. Please research this because it's so important. What they did and what they think they have the right to do, just like they think they have the right to cover up the murders and abuse our children and put our veterans on the street and don't care when the veterans die, or send military back that are suffering from PTSD back to war, and those and they don't come back again because they weren't mentally fit to go. It's all from the working class, the working people and the poor that suffer. Now I will tell you this. This is one of the things they did to us. And you can look this up and you can learn this yourself. And it's a very important thing to know, right? The children who go to private run schools, the upper class, the lawyers, the people born with silver spoons in their mouth, was learnt this. The people from the working class areas and the working class poor and the poor were never learnt this. And this is the reason, because it's another way they created debt slaves. So if you get the Oxford Style Manual, it will tell you what English is, what the English language is. Now, to us who went to state-run schools, any word that's written in English, we think is English. It's common sense. So if I write, and this will go back to the birth certificate, but if I write something in lowercase, if I write the word king, it says king. If I write it in uppercase, it says king. That's what we assume. But no, it's not. It's a symbol. It's not the English language. Now, the upper class, the private school children, they know all this because in the Oxford Style Manual, it tells you that any uppercase word, and this is why it's on your birth certificate, any uppercase word is a symbol, is a foreign language, is ancient Latin, it's dog Latin. So us thinking it's just an English word because that's what it looks like, but it isn't. And then if you go to the Chicago Manual, it will tell you that it's a sign language. And that's what it is. And that is how they're fooling us. You know, going to court, and I don't want to give people advice on things. I'd rather you looked and, you know, saw it for yourself. It's very important on how they've managed to fraudulently get us to be debt slaves. And how to get out of it is to learn the system that we've been put into. Yeah. And that's what they don't want people to wake up to, because that's how they're doing it to us. Fraudulent summons. Look at James. Look at James. He is going to court because he called Lizzie Dearden a scumbag, and which she is. Now, a scumbag in the Cambridge Dictionary says it's someone who's deceptive. And that is what she is. She wrote many tweets that were lies about him. She wrote many tweets that were lies about me. And her problem is that she wasn't allowed into court that day she tried to get into court. So she's done what she's done. But the actual case itself went over 6 months. That means it was out of time, but they're still taking him to court. So as taxpayers, we're paying thousands of pounds for them to take James to court yet again on a word, which isn't unlawful, where they can't even be bothered to investigate a proper crime like the murders of our 3 children. I can't tell you how insulting it is when they take people to, you know, I could say to John Lawrence now, John, you're a lemon. And he thinks, well, you know, I'm offended you've called me a lemon. He can go and report that to the police and they'll come and arrest me for it. Now that's dictatorship, it's censorship, and there's no freedom of speech. But anyway, Sean, you're in the room. Can you reiterate on anything I've just said?
What you just said about the words, it's crazy these days that you know when you grow up and you're a kid and you're out with your mates, we've all done it. We had nicknames for our mates. We'd take the piss, you know, we'd call you arsehole, you this, you that, and we wouldn't dream of going to the police and having you arrested for it. And like you say about James, he called her a scumbag. What the hell? It's just not worthy of even any crime, is it? It's disgusting that we've got to that stage where you've got to be frightened of pretty much saying anything which anybody might find offensive. You know, because at the end of the day, you can find anything offensive if you've got that mind. So, you know, I could say, I don't know, something really silly like, I don't like your football team, I hate your team. You know, I hate the town you live in. And you deem that to be offensive enough to go to the police. And the police actually told me this. I got into a thing 3 or 4 years ago, and I hadn't done anything at all, really. And I was talking to the cop. I got arrested for it, and he said, "Well, it's assault." I said, "How is it assault? I've not harmed anyone. I've not hurt anyone. I've not stolen. I've done nothing, you know, lawful. So how can you deem that to be assault?" And he said, "I'll tell you why." He said, "The law now dictates to us that if somebody deems what you say or do that to be a threat, even if it's not, we have to enact on it." And I got arrested for it. And it was 2 weeks before I said, "That's fair enough." I said, "You investigate this and then you come back and tell me I done anything wrong." 2 weeks later, they come back, "Sean, no case to answer. Thank you very much. I told you that in the first place." But that's how the law's gone. Political correctness, snowflakiness, I don't know what it is. Not allowed to, you know, offend someone. It's ridiculous. But that's the world we live in at the moment.
It's taking
funny.
all the freedoms away, isn't it, John? Go on.
It's funny. We went to Bradford the other week while Amjad Ditta was going up in court. And when we come to the media, I looked at them all. I called them all scumbags, wanker. I called them every single name I could think of, and even swore a couple of times, but I never got arrested. Oh my God, honestly.
Yeah, I think they want to stifle James.
Can I just say, Trace, sorry, sister, just say to John, they will probably come after you like they did James when they've all got together and colluded and gathered all the evidence against you. You might find that in the next 3 to 6 months, they come knocking at your door, which is exactly what they did to James.
Well, I'll tell you something else they did as well, right? That a lot of the people who are up in court on the 23rd, and I will be taking this up with the Met Police, in case they're listening under a false name in the room, which they probably are. So I will be taking it up with you. That all the people that was arrested on the who have to go to court on the 23rd and the 24th, luckily, I know the majority of them, because what the police have done in their paperwork, I wasn't arrested in them, and they've put my name and my address in all these people's paperwork that they've been sent. Right? So that is a massive data protection thing. And like I say, lucky enough, I know the majority of these people, and that's how I know about it. But they've put my name and address in all these people's paperwork. Yeah.
Okay, can I just say, Tracy, that 2 years ago, I was arrested and, you know, they gave me an order and it went on a criminal record because I went to the trouble of getting my Criminal Evidence Act. So everything the police held on me, I had a file. And it was on there. And that was for calling somebody a disgusting man. So I do feel for James at the moment. And I feel that the police are actually being a bit risque because the trouble is the police don't realise that by doing this to James, more and more people are going to realise that these things go on. And it's just an abuse of power, quite simply abuse of power.
Well, not only is it abuse of power, it's abuse of the court system because the judiciary is corrupt, but it's still abuse of the court system because his court summons is not a proper court summons. It come through the letterbox. That is not a proper court summons served by the court. And you can prove these things by ringing up the court yourself. When you get one that comes through the door like that, that hasn't been served properly. That's not how you serve a court summons. So all you do to check on it, because as I said, the courtrooms, you can hire them. How can you hire a courtroom and sit up there and pretend to be an administrator or a judge? But that's what they're doing. Right? And it's all about, especially when it comes to the fines, right? And you can research all of this yourself. You know, when you think about it, it will make sense. So if you get one through the door that isn't a court summons because it's been put through the door, the dog could have chewed it, you could be away for a month. And by the way, if you do go to court, you're consenting, by the way, just to add that to that. Now, so the summons, you can find out whether that's a true summons by ringing up the court and asking, because everything has to be on the court summon, on the court system. So you ring up and you ask them to send you the laying of information for your case, which you'll have to have a witness statement, you know, a true statement or affidavit, you know, whatever is it, and the evidence, yeah, whatever's involved in your case. And it has to be sealed 3 times by the judge.
Advanced disclosure, that's called, Tracy.
Yeah, well, laying of information, same thing, right? So he has to seal it 3 times, one to the prosecutor, one to the court. That other one has to be served to the defendant, and it has to be served properly. These pieces of paper that come in through the door and saying you're up in court, it's all fraudulent. And once you can learn all that and prove that, that's where we start bringing their system down. You know, and that's another thing they won't like me saying, but I don't fear them, so I will say it, because I don't know who they think they are, that they can just do what they do to us. Work it out yourself next time. Anyone in the room gets one through the door and that isn't served properly, ring up the court and you'll be able to prove that you do not have a legal summons.
See, we've been ignorant of all this, haven't we? Letting our government run our country. We've been very ignorant of these things. And I mean, the expenses scandal was a big eye opener for me to do with money. And you was going on about how all the politicians want to stay in the EU, but 30 years ago they all wanted to leave, every single one of them. I hardly heard anybody say they wanted to be in the EU. They stood there and they made statements of why we shouldn't be in the EU. And them statements are true to what they've said, not what's happening now. But they all want to stay in the EU. Money, money, money. Honestly, big payouts. And yeah, come on, you'll get your company that your son runs. Yeah, we'll move it to here and we'll make it dead rich. And honestly, they're fucking all over.
Go on, Sean.
I've lost my fork now. Carry on, Trace. I've lost what I was going to say. Sorry.
That's all right.
It's late.
Go on. Have you remembered, Sean?
Not yet. I'll come in when I do this.
I think what's important as well, that when it comes to the Magna Carta 1215, that people have to realise, because you'll go online and you'll get, you know, misinformation and people saying it ain't true and this has changed, that's changed, blah, 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 blah. People have to remember that the Magna Carta was here before the government was. The government have no right to change it. Yeah. What the government want to do is erode it. Yeah. no, it's not there, or the Constitution wasn't written, it was just a verbal contract, and this and that, and this was changed, and that was changed. You know, oh, go on.
Say, Trace, about the Magna Carta. I think if we look at it in simple terms, what they actually did when government started at the beginning and they realised that they had this thing against them which would stop them, they just completely ignored it, because at that time, probably 95% of the people on this island couldn't read or write, and they would have no idea of that kind of thing. So what they did, they just rushed on regardless, used bits of it as and when it suited them, and as we've seen, they just completely ignored it and dismissed it when it doesn't suit them. And that's the problem with the Magna Carta. It's only in the last, say, 30, 40 years that people have looked at that document in depth and realised what it actually was. But the people of that time would have had no idea and wouldn't be able to comprehend the meaning and the wording of it. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point what you pointed out there, and like and I'll jump back to what I said, where we all thought we was learning English, but the private people were, the MP's children that goes to private schools, and we weren't. It's the same thing, isn't it? I'm saying it's the same thing, but you're right in what you're saying. We was probably a lot more illiterate, back then, and what we are now. And still now in our schools, do you think all the indoctrination that's going on in state-run schools is going on in the private schools? Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. It's just in the state-run schools, because this is how they keep us down here. It's very cleverly done. And just to show the people in the room, I just want to quickly answer Aunt Sally's question. Aunt Sally, I was told yesterday when I was in Wales, someone told me about a book. Now, I'm getting this book because I've learned a lot, but with me, it's talking to people, like listening to Sean and other people online and researching a lot myself. So, but someone told me about this book, and they've done all the common law, and they said it was the easiest book for them to read. So I've ordered it, and if it is like that, then I'll let you know what book it is, but I'm going to check it out first. But a lot of mine is research, but it's important to pass it on when you do know that you have it really correct. Now, I'll just show you this. In Hillingdon, they have a card. It's called, you might have this in your boroughs. It's called the privilege card, putting residents first. Well, they never put us first anyway. That's a lie, but reverse psychology. But what it is, it's a card, and it might give you an extra 20 pence off a parking, and in the dump that is 5 minutes from where I live, it means you can get in there for free, but without it, you'll have to pay. But if you just live in that borough, well, I thought what I'll do, all these are on the Hillingdon borough, they're under your name in Hillingdon, and you have to prove that's you. Well, anyway, you can go on Hillingdon online, and you can order another one if yours is cracked or anything. Well, I hadn't ordered another one since 2009, so I thought, oh, I'll get another one. Now, I know that when you order it, we'll have to look on the system and check that is you that's ordered it, yeah? So I thought I'll put, Tracy of the family Blackwell. I thought I'll see what happens. And that's exactly what they sent it to me in. I don't know if you can see, but it says Tracy of the family Blackwell. Right? Now, if it was unlawful to do that, they would not have sent me this card. So I just think it's important to point out that it is all true about the Magna Carta, that you can go back to what you were, because this is what sets you free. This is why they're allowed to do what they do. I was put into a system that I just thought that, we were uncovering the murders to our children. I never dreamed what I would find out on the streets and what I'd find out about the country I live in. And with our children, our three boys, they never treated them as children. They treated them as a trade. And they knew in their mind that they could do what they wanted with our children after they died, because they believe they own their bodies. They believe they own their bodies. This will all come out, but I just wanted to show you that, look, the council even sent me that in that. So yeah. Sean, you remembered anything yet?
I was going to say, I think it was when John was talking about the expenses scandal.
Oh,
and
yes.
if I'm honest, that is probably when my ears first pricked up and I thought, that is fucking disgusting. What it was, one MP around the country put a claim in to have his duck pond refurbished and cleaned out. And I'm thinking, hold up, we've got people on the streets, we've got a big jobless problem. We've got all the issues in the country, and that man is allowed to claim for a fucking cleaning his duck pond out in his garden on our expenses. And I think that's when I first thought, fuck, that is not fucking right. You know, I was ignorant of everything, really. You know, I never give a shit about anything. I just lived my life as best I could in a good way and just got on day by day. And obviously with the Brexit thing, I woke up really then. But that was probably the thing where I first thought, this isn't fucking right. You know, how these people are just taking the piss, really, and we're the ones paying.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Going back on that, the expensive scandal, and they're still doing it now. They just called it something else. They still pay for 2 homes. Why are you paying for 2 homes? Other people commute to work, so you commute to work. Yeah, paying for this, paying for that. As I said, every time we're putting money in the treasury, it's coming out the back door. Anyone that's raised by the lower charities, not the corporate charities, because the corporate charities don't give their money out. Yeah, the lower charities that do. You know, you look when we was raising the money. Well, I wasn't, you know, because I knew it was a con. But when they said they wanted $500,000 to ring Big Ben on Brexit, well, on the 31st of January at 11 o'clock. Well, it has a motor backup, so you just push a button. But anyway, they was raising this $500,000, fooling the people again, and they raised 250,000. So they said, obviously, they didn't raise enough to push this button, right? Although they never mentioned the button, by the way, for the bell. So they gave the whole lot to help the heroes, right? And then recently, I think it was Combat Stress had received lower money than they normally receive, and they received 10 million, and they said they can't help no one else. Well, isn't Gus camping outside Combat Stress? Hasn't he been camping outside there because Combat Stress actually helped no one?
Yeah, can I say about that, Tracy? You know, the Help for Heroes?
Yeah.
They, along with the British Royal Legion, were 2 of the organisations that when the veterans stood up, right, and asked for help with stopping the prosecutions and persecutions, them 2 organisations said they could not publicly back the veterans and that they give that money to them. And as for Combat Stress is sitting on £127 million, and they haven't helped a single veteran for months.
People need to wake up. What is really going on in this country? It's not, look, there's so many Trojan horses, so many things going on, and people sending people down dead ends on purpose, and distractions, so you don't see really what's going on and how we was taught compared to how others were taught, like I just told you about the English language. And just to say, someone's put some dates in the room, which is it Oz Ardell? I hope I've pronounced it right. You know what I'm like. You've put some dates in, and you've put 1066, 1199, and 1213. Now, if I'm correct with the 1213, and please correct me, Oz Ardell. So in 1215, you had the Magna Carta, but in 1213, what is stated is I think it was William the Conqueror, who wasn't actually a king, by the way, but became king. So that will tell you something about the royals. in itself. He signed everything over to the Pope, the Vatican, in 1213. Us as people, our lands, everything. And when they say all roads lead to Rome, they do lead to Rome. That's another story. But I think he's talking about everything. I think that is what he is saying. The whole thing is a fraud. Yes. Are you saying about 1213 that everything was signed over to the Vatican, Ozardel? Am I correct on that? 1066, which is obviously the Great Fire of London. And that
Tracy,
is,
Battle of Hastings.
that is
yeah, can I just
the Kescaviat. Go on.
William Conquer was 1066, the Battle of Hastings, and I think it was King George
Oh yeah, it
who
was 1666. Go on.
yeah, or King oh god, I can't think of the king's name. He signed it over to the Vatican in 1213, and of
Yes.
course 1215 the
What's
Baron
yeah,
forced the Magna Carta one.
what's 1199? What's that one?
I'm not sure about that one, sister. Delroy will probably more on that. I know the
Yeah,
Act
1666. Sorry.
1666 was
Yeah,
the Great Fire of London,
yeah,
and that's where
Mayo
they found all the
Tapestry,
records.
1066.
Yeah, they found all the records in 1666
Yeah, that's it.
to hide everything. Yeah.
Is it Delroy? Is he
Yeah,
or
Delroy is right up on the whole from the shebang from 1066 onwards. You know, more than I am.
Tell us what 1199 was, Delroy, please. I haven't seen that one. I know I've seen everything being signed over to the Pope, and I've said before, all roads lead to Rome, because it's the Vatican owns everything. There's so much to it, and let me just see. I just want to know what 1199 is, out of interest. Yes, Tracy. Yeah, so he agrees with the Vatican and that. Can you tell us what 1199 was, please? What happened then? Yeah, so there's so much, and we've been fooled so much. But as I said, the upper class, the people born with a silver spoon, the MPs, their children, they're all aware of all this, and they just see us as their cattle. They really do. They don't see us as humans. Like I say, and like Dave Witcher has said, the police are classed as their dogs. And the police are on the side of their pension and benefits, even to the own detrimental effect of their own children and their own children's future. And they don't care. How can you not care? Not just with regards to our three boys, but the abuse of children, the murders of children, people starving. How can you not care? Just because you want your pension or benefit at the end of it, or so you think it's going to be there.
They're like robots, aren't they, Tracy? I've always said the police are a different breed. They I don't know. They seem like robots to me. They've got no heart. They've got no soul. They've obviously sold the soul to the devil, i.e., the government, the controllers, the puppet masters. But I've always questioned the police. How can they do, and have no soul and heart about it as they're doing it?
Right, okay. Was that in 1199? Anita. Anita's put Richard I died and it was a fight for the throne. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that happened in 1199. That.
Yeah, well, there you go. What does that tell you? There's some things you don't want to say. There just isn't. But I will say this. Growing up, in this country and being English and British and watching the last night of the proms every year, going to Church of England schools and, being taught, what the British is all about, what the English is about and all this. you know, and the royal family, and you'd get excited if you thought the Queen was coming past, you know, if there was an event, which was very rare. I think I've seen the Queen in her car twice my whole lifetime. But I can honestly say, personally, I will never sing God Save the Queen again. And I don't mean any offence to anyone who would, but that's just my opinion, and that's my entitlement, that I will never sing God Save the Queen again.
That's my
Well,
view as well, Tracy. I
I
say
yeah.
we should sing Royal Britannia rather than God Save the Queen.
Well, what again? It's indoctrinating again, isn't it? Because really, when you look at it, they are getting the whole country, all of the people, to sing to God to save one person.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Maybe we
God
should
save
make our own
ordinary
up.
people. That's what I say. God save the ordinary people. Because if I was the Queen of this country and I saw all this hate and hurt and pain and suffering, I'd be out on that streets. I'd storm down to Parliament. I'd kick the door open with my foot and I'd tell them to all get out. And it's not just that, is it? We know the paedophilia and everything else, you know, and it's not on. It's not on that whether you have this standing, you have a responsibility when you have that standing, yeah, and you failed in that responsibility and you're hurting children, and it's not on. And unfortunately, as awful as it is, we have to face these facts and we have to be honest, and that is how I feel as a person, as a British person, as an English person, and a mother who's lost her son and everything else I now know. For a long time now, I decided I will never sing that again. And I'm glad you feel the same, Sean, that I'm not on my own. I respect anyone else, by the way, who sings it. I'm just stating how I feel. And I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of people who feel like that.
yeah, Trace. On the end of January when they sung it outside the stage, I thought, why are they singing that? You know, but Badges, you know, I love my country, my island. I love my people. I love our traditions, and I loved the Queen. I loved the Queen.
Yeah.
I stood in the street for 3 hours when
Yeah.
I was a kid just to see the Queen for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I thought it was
Exactly.
wonderful. And I was the only one who stood up. I went to Wembley in, I don't know how many years ago for a cup final, and I was the only one who stood up for God Save the Queen
Yeah.
at the start of a big cup final. And I was telling people, come on, like, this is our national anthem, but
Yeah.
I don't feel the same as it now. And I wouldn't, like you, I would not sing the national anthem now because I'm not proud of my nation, how it's become, and those who are running it.
Yeah.
Can I
I've
just
got no pride in it no
get
more.
something in? I mean, God Save the Queen isn't a new song. It's a few hundred-year old. So it might have been right then when Victoria was Queen. But as I've noticed, a lot of our laws and that from the old days should be revamped or redone because they don't take into consideration that we're in the 21st century. So if anything, if they were going to sing something, it should be God Save Our Gracious
People.
Royal Family. No, you know,
Or
or
people.
whatever. But
Or
I mean,
people, ordinary people, isn't it? God save the people.
yeah.
God save the people. And that's what I think.
Just sing the boy song.
Thanks, Dave. You know, but I think, you know, singing to God to save one person is not right in itself anyway. You know, it should be to save us all. And like I said, we're in terrible dark days. Terrible. They've, you know, diverted and distracted everyone with Brexit. Nothing changes. It's bad enough, and it's only going to get worse. You know, sometimes I sit here in despair because when you know so much and you know the system in the sense of what I see, what they've done with us, sometimes I sit here in despair because you just want everyone to know, listen, just please listen. you know. But yeah, enough for me tonight anyway, because I can waffle on and carry on. So I'm going to go anyway. John, thank you for being on tonight and with Stefan and Jeremy. It's much
No
appreciated.
problem, Tracy, no problem.
Much
James
appreciated.
said hello, by the way.
Who?
James.
Oh, is he watching, is he? Or is he just saying hello to you?
He's not been watching. He phoned me up, so I nipped off and talked on phone and that. But yeah, he said hello, and well, we'll be seeing you soon. So I'm coming down on the 3rd of April with him when he's in court. So I think that's a Friday.
I'm a witness, and I'm a witness. Who'd have thought?
I know.
I'm a witness. Yeah. So thank you, John. I look forward to seeing you as always. Anyway, Dave, thank you for joining us, and I'll speak to you soon. Sean, thank you. Anna, thank you. Thank you to everyone in your room for being with us tonight, and to Jason for hosting as always. Speak
Thank
to
you,
you all
Sophie.
soon.
What an amazing night. This has
Thank
got to be
you
one of
very
your longest shows.
Thank you, everyone.